recorder going. All right. Is it on? Okay, here we go. Councilmember Miller. No, Vice Mayor Miller. We're just going to go around that way. Mayor Croft.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Who am I missing?
Cloyce.
And Cloyce is not here yet.
Okay,
We have quorum.
thank you. Let's go with item 2, consideration discussion regarding temporary sign ordinance options. Comment and opening. This is a study session. It's an open meeting opportunity for discussions between staff and town council. Town council may also ask for input from business owners. This is a business meeting and will be conducted as such. There will be no applause, no grandstanding, or no personal attacks. Staff members will present their input to council first. There will be discussion with council members. At the completion of council staff discussion, business owner comments will be heard. Council members may ask for explanation or further discussion, but the original presentation by business owners will be limited to 5 minutes. If there is follow-up discussion, we will allow follow-up discussion after all our business members here have spoken. At the completion of this study session, council will give direction to staff to draft a temporary sign ordinance to be presented to P&Z and town council as an action item at a future council meeting. Our objective here tonight is to reach some kind of agreement with the town and business owners on temporary signs. We have spent a lot of time and gone around in a lot of circles, and we will not leave here tonight till we get something. If we don't do anything else on the agenda, that is the item we will do. If it takes 3 or 4 hours or 3 hours, I will stop the meeting and we'll re-adjourn it at another time. By 9 o'clock or by 8 o'clock, 8:30, we will be out of here, hopefully with some kind of agreement. If we have time, we'll go on to the other agenda items. If not, so be it. We can have another meeting. Any questions from anyone? Okay, I'd like Mr. Cook to make his presentation. Please.
Oh yeah, this mouse isn't working. Oh, now it is. That's fine. Thanks. So the item before you is about temporary signage. Is that too loud?
I don't think it's loud enough.
Oh. Yeah, it's on. Is that better?
Doesn't sound like
No?
it's amplifying.
Oh, all right. I'll just try to talk loud then. All right, so back at the May 2019 study session, staff brought to the council's attention the language in the sign ordinance being insufficient to really enforce the sign ordinance without causing businesses some problems. Between June and August, staff met with the UDO subcommittee 4 times. We presented the initial draft of what staff proposes to the town council members that were in attendance. And through the course of 3 additional meetings, we presented different drafts based on the input staff received from town council members. In your packet, you received the first draft as well as the last draft. We can discuss those later if you prefer, or I think the mayor has a list of items and questions that we want to focus on. Okay. A request for a zoning interpretation was given to staff, and the zoning administrator drafted that interpretation with the help from legal counsel. An appeal to that interpretation was provided to staff in August, and a Board of Adjustment meeting was held last Thursday. Going forward, staff provided, as I said, copies of the first draft and the last draft that we presented to you. Hopefully tonight we can come to some agreement as to how you want staff to proceed with the draft. Sign code options, we can adopt the UDO subcommittee's draft language from the last, from August, or option 2, we can adopt staff's initial proposal or something similar. Option 3 would be add in language allowing a revolving door for permits to be issued for semi-permanent temporary signage. And option 4 would be to create an 89 overlay, which would grandfather in the businesses that are currently there to allow them to have their flags out on a rotating basis as well. With regard to the fee schedule, I think there's other options there as well. The first option would be to leave it alone and continue to charge what has historically been charged. Option 2 would be to update the cost to a flat fee. Option 3 would be update the cost to be a flat fee along with a refundable deposit. If the business owners police themselves and remove the temporary signs when they're supposed to, they could come in and get a refund. Option 4 would be to update such that that the entirety of the fee is refundable if the businesses remove their signs when required. And the option 5 would be just to make temporary signs exempt. That's, I guess, my initial presentation to kind of spur conversation. So,
Any questions from council? Questions? Questions?
No.
No? Huh? Sure, go.
The latest draft is one that says last draft sent to you, the UDO subcommittee in July 2019.
yeah, that's correct.
I have a list of issues on which staff would like council input in order to be able to craft some changes. What is a temporary sign? Is it based upon materials or the duration of time the sign is displayed? First question, first.
It's on both.
What is a temporary sign? Council?
I'd say both.
Well, we've talked about, my opinion, the temporary sign was something that is put up until somebody puts up a permanent sign. That was my interpretation of how it was. We were in a study session or in a UDO meeting recently where it was brought up that the temporary sign has been permitted for 6 months and then allowed to be re-permitted for 6 months and re-permitted for 6 months. And the benefit of that is so people can change their signs. For me, that doesn't seem like a temporary sign. You gotta call it something else if you're gonna do that. And I'll go on with my concern with that and what I brought up, whether it's the temporary sign, whether it's the flag signs, is that they're made out of fabric. We live in an area that has abundant wind. How do you keep them from becoming frayed and dismantled and left to make things look just trashy? How do you do that? We darn sure don't have enough, code enforcement to walk up and down the street and say, hey, your feather flag is not in good shape anymore, you have to take it down and replace it. So.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, I'd add on to what Lon was saying. I thought we wanted our highway to look nice and be presentable when people drive through. And a ratty flag, even a sandwich board that hasn't been kept up. And then I asked the second question is, if they're in disarray, or how are they gonna attract customers off the highway? You can't read it, it's faded out. I don't think it's going to attract any customer. So why aren't the businesses updating them on their own without us having to police them?
Corey?
I think we can go right to the purpose of this sign to begin with.
Where you at?
I'm on page 7,
With the old one,
For-
not the new one?
on the first draft. I don't think that has changed in any of them.
I don't think so.
the purpose of this sign code are to establish reasonable regulations that, A, promote the public welfare and safety through the safe placement and installation of signs. I believe that belongs as item A, because safety absolutely is the first and foremost on just about anything that we decide as a council, no matter what the issues are. B, promote economic vitality for local businesses and services. And then C, the third item, protect and enhance the town's aesthetics interests by preventing over proliferation of signs and maintaining a high quality of signs throughout the town. We all know that we have some economic challenges in town. So I think that rightfully takes the second place on the agenda. I think that that's second to safety. If these flags, these feather flags, these temporary flags, are going to promote business, then I think we need to work from that basis. Again, they need to not be where they're going to create a safety hazard. Then the follow-up is item 3, are the aesthetics. That is something that I would like this ordinance to, as we start talking about time limits of this, that we, whatever the duration of time, that we actually have limits, so that at any time as it starts becoming too aesthetically look more like a circus going through town, then we can adjust it at that point. But until it actually gets to the point of looking like a circus and not affecting public safety, I think we have got to figure out a way that we can allow these attention getters for our businesses. I think it's important to our businesses. So I'll stop for the moment.
Annie?
I'm in line with Corey with everything he said. Surprise.
Wow.
I know. Document that.
Mr. Miller?
Well, I don't agree necessarily that a temporary sign gets you to a permanent sign. I think people put up signs temporarily for social events that are happening, like the churches or whatever. Do real estate signs fall in this category?
No.
They don't at all. That's good. So, and I don't think this, whatever the sign's made out of, matters for a temporary sign, if it's wood or a banner. I think that some events are just gonna have to have, we're gonna have to have some allowance for a temporary sign. As far as what that is, I don't know. I don't have an answer because I don't know what the need is. And I don't think we can just do away with temporary signs saying that you can only have it for 6 months and then it's done. Because take a church, for example, that has vacation Bible school in July, and then Christmas program in December, and the Easter program in the spring, and whatever else happens. What do we do there?
Comment to that?
Sure.
That was one of the things that we did talk about,
Uh-huh.
and one of the ideas was to allow, I believe it was 15 days a quarter
Yeah.
for any business, church, whatever. If they have something special going on, if they're having a sale, if they're having the vacation Bible school or whatever, that they could come in, say, this is what we're going to do, and they could put up some kind, and it was square footage limited, depending on the size of the property and so on, but they could put out their special event signs for up to 15 days a quarter. So we did address it so that what I consider true temporary signs for something like that would be allowed.
Okay. I like that.
Okay. Many communities distinguish between temporary and special event signs as a way to focus on the nature of the use instead of the sign material. Temporary signs are used primarily for new businesses, are typically limited in duration, and are removed when the permanent sign is placed. Special event signs are used to draw attention to specific events or times, such as a sale event or a seasonal festivity. Special event signs can be recurring, but often with limitations on the number of times per year. Next question. Does the council favor making the distinction between temporary signs and a special event sign?
Yes.
I do, I can,
Do you think there's two different things? or-
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's general agreement, okay? Should there be a limit on the number of special event signs?
As in per calendar year?
Yeah,
Like
how do you,
proposed
how do
with
you
per
mean
quarter?
that?
Yeah.
At any given time, or,
How many you can do a year, or
many
how long you can
signs-
stay up? I don't know.
How
Should-
many signs in general?
And what do you, let's go to the attorney.
That's not.
Let's get him involved.
Appreciate it. I don't marry my dog once, and this is what
That's
happens.
it.
Fair enough. This question is aimed at, special events are typically recurring things for certain types of businesses, and they're one-offs for others. And so, do you wanna have for, specifically is important to the ones who do something on a periodic basis, a limited number of times throughout the course of the year that they can do that? Some communities have it, X number of days within a quarter, some have it X number of days within a month. It just depends. Some have consecutive day requirements, some have total number of day requirements. They're all over the board. We're just trying to get a feel for, do you think that it's appropriate for there to be some limit on the number of temporaries or special event signs that you could ask for in the course of a year, like a single business?
I know if we're talking about the Chamber of Commerce, they run a special event every month. Now, can we limit them, or how about just a standard business that does that? That's part of their business, is a special event. So how do we limit that, or do we wanna limit that? Do we
Well, we
wanna
could- we
control?
could- we could-
Special event's a special event.
well,
it's
I don't know.
It's either, excuse me, Mike,
Go ahead.
it's either if you either limit it in some way, whether it's 5 days in a month, or 15 days in a quarter, or you don't limit it at all, and just say, it's a free-for-all, put up whatever you want.
Jack,
Yes, sir.
what do you think?
I'd have to hear what business people think before.
We're gonna get there eventually.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like you said, if it's a place that's doing, like you said, more public functions, then yeah, they would need more leeway to put up a sign, or would they need to get a marquee, that would become their permanent sign, then they could change the letters on it, or a reader sign, or, I don't know. I'm
Court?
sorry, I just want.
I'm a little bit more towards the free-for-all, but with a size limitation, that if you want to, say, have, use more of a permanent, material, where you have your hard sign, and you're allotted to, and I'm just gonna make this number up, every business is allotted 100 square feet, and you wanna use 50 of your square feet for your hard permanent, you still have 50 available to you. And if you wanna do it in a rotating sign where you can say, this month's special is, are nails, or that could be for a beauty shop as well as a hardware store, nails, so that you can actually have a rotating face. And that would then include a feather as well, if that's what you want to then say, this is this month's, and it's something I'm willing to give a try to and see just what that does. Again, time-wise, that if we start, again, making the town look like a circus, then we would have to pull back from that. But if it's used, if it seems to blend all right, and it's gonna help our businesses, I would move that direction.
So how do you judge that? When does it become
Annie?
a circus?
What's your,
It is.
what are your comments?
I, like Jeff, would like to hear from the businesses on this.
Okay?
Also,
Mike?
I'm not done. There wasn't even a pause there. I also agree with Corey. I'm just gonna lay it out there. Some of the flags driving through town, they looked trashy. They really did. And I don't want to hurt businesses by any means, but when trying to promote Chino Valley, and when you're driving down the highway and you see feather signs everywhere, it did look like a circus to me. I don't know how you define that as far as how many is too many, or, that we can't define the content. But there's gotta be some sort of balance in there, that there's gotta be a balance where the businesses and the town come together, and I'd like to hear from the businesses before I
Mike?
move any further.
If she's done?
I am now.
Okay.
I understand it, and we go ahead and we're bombarded by advertising all the time. And this is President's Day sale, and this is whatever sale comes after that, and Valentine's sales. And I think we need to go ahead and limit something, and if they need to have a sale every month, maybe out of that month, we only allow them to sign up for 5 days. This weekend is gonna be our big sale. 'Cause I don't wanna see our highway cluttered with,
Now, we're still talking about special event signs. We're not-
well, that is a special event.
Absolutely.
I mean, they have
Okay.
as many advertising as we have holidays.
Okay.
And that's why, they need to be limited.
One a month, 2 a month,
Yeah,
maybe 2 a month? 2 a month?
one.
Jack?
2 signs a month, or
2 events?
special events.
Yeah, 2 signs.
if that suffices, like I said, I would really like to
Corey?
hear from
I don't know that yet.
Annie?
She's pondering.
No, I would like to hear from the businesses before I go any further on that.
That was another thing, again, that came up in the UDO meeting, and Corey brought that up, was, okay, what if we, I look at this survey, and it's about 50-50. Even from our business community. No, we don't want them, it looks trashy, we need them to promote our business. So, it's about a 50-50 deal there on the people that responded. Corey brought up, well, what if we, there will be regardless, there will be some kind of a square footage per the size of the business, frontage or whatever. But let them have, whatever they want. And, but in that sign ordinance, if we go that way and say, everybody can do pretty much whatever they want, whenever they want, but it's gonna be up to the people, the business community, to make sure that their property looks nice. If your flag's coming apart, you have to take it down and replace it, okay? And say, that's your responsibility as a business owner. If all of a sudden we see that not happening, and half the flags going down Highway 89 are coming apart and frayed, and it looks trashy, then we will come back and readdress it. And we'll say that in whatever we will write out. That was another idea. So, just to throw that out there so the public can hear that, so when they go to respond, they know some more of what we've discussed.
I like your comments. Any response to his comment about,
Having the businesses police themselves, I think that'd be great.
they have to police themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm never in favor of revisiting issues. So if I had it my way, I'd like to hammer it out. But I understand where you're coming from as far as if it doesn't work, then we'll have to revisit it. I just wish that we could.
The only thing, and the reason we did that, Annie, was the reason that came up in conversation was, look at our highway, look at the businesses. We could have several hundred of these flags up and down Highway 89. We do not have 25 code enforcement officers.
Right.
We have no way of monitoring that ourselves to keep it from happening. So everybody's gotta be responsible for themselves. And it's one of those things that hopefully we could do, but it also goes back to the same old adage that if everybody was responsible, we wouldn't need any regulation, so.
Well, one of my concerns is the new business owner comes in, gets a feather flag, and knows that every 6 months they can renew that. And that's a heck of a lot cheaper than putting in a permit sign. So here we got a new business owner that does not put in a sign, but actually continues to have feather flags over and over again. So there has to be some way to make sure, some incentive to make them do their regular sign, or some disincentive. So there has to be something to make sure that doesn't happen.
Then would it be reasonable to say, instead of, I use the 50/50, of square footage, that we narrow that down to a 75/25, so that it becomes a little, you encourage a little, 3/4 of your signage needs to be more of a, I'm gonna say permanent instead of a rotating, to rein that in slightly. Josh, what is our current allowable signage square footage?
It's actually split out by sign, so each sign will have its own total square footage. So for
Okay.
instance, and it's based on the speed of the road on which the business fronts, meaning less than 35, 35, greater than 35.
We're talking about temporary signs.
Temporary signs are also based on the zone that you're in. Commercial and industrial are allowed 48 square feet aggregate per business.
Okay, if I were to, we'll use Tom's Print, I think everyone knows Tom's Print. He has his full-time flag or sign out front. What's roughly the square footage that you're allowed for that? With the
You're talking about
current?
the feather flags?
No,
just
no.
permanent sign.
Well,
Is
we're
it-
doing
Big
feather,
yellow one.
we're doing temporary flags and not regular.
See the code?
I know, but to get to the
If you're gonna say
point of
total square
proportion.
footage for signage,
Yeah.
then that's,
Be careful we don't stray off into the entire sign thing.
Right,
Do you
so-
know what your square footage of your sign is?
I know it's 24 square feet. What I'm allowed there has changed since I got my permit, and I haven't done the calculations based on the speed, so.
Roughly 24 square foot, so
This is what I'm allowed, but. I
it just, I'm just giving us a visual.
Sure.
That's 24 square feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
so
What's the square footage of a feather flag?
they're roughly 24 square feet.
Okay.
You can put 2 up usually.
So they're 12 square feet apiece.
No, they're usually 24 square feet apiece. If I
Piece, that's
yeah.
pretty good.
So, so right, so within that 48 square feet, they're usually allowed 2 feathered flags. But as I was saying, the permanent signage is split up into different kinds. So there's wall signs, which I believe Tom's print shop has the permanent wall sign up above, and then they're also allowed a freestanding sign, and they're also allowed monument signage. They're allowed awning signs. So there's a lot of permanent signage that these businesses could be utilizing that they're not.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Please, so I can shut up, right? Really, what we're trying to figure out here is what a temporary
Yep.
is and what an event is, I think, is the two things we need to figure out. Like, if you're gonna have a temporary sign, you have a new business, then that would be a temporary sign. If you're gonna have a special event sign, then that's a whole nother category,
Yes, and we.
not temporary.
Right.
Even though it's only up temporary, it's an event sign.
Yes.
So what happens when you have a permanent sign? Do you take your temporary signs down?
Yeah, a temporary sign would get you
So
to.
the feather signs go away if you have a permanent sign, is that what you're saying?
No.
Unless it was an event.
Ah, okay.
But a temporary sign would get you to a
I think
permanent
what-
sign.
I think what the business owner is asking, they allowed to keep that temporary sign up and recycle it over and over and over. So that becomes a temporary permanent sign, so are we as a council gonna allow that feather flag to be recycled over and over and over on some kind of period with some kind of fee?
My opinion, if it's an event, yes. If it's a temporary sign for the business to give to a permanent sign, no.
Okay?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean,
Well,
that's,
it does make sense, but I'm not sure that's what is one, and I'm gonna allow the business folks to talk now. Tom, are you representing your business folks?
I am representing me, and I am
Tom,
only
come up and,
representing me. They
well,
don't.
tell us what, you got 5 minutes, Tom.
Can I ask him a quick question? real
Sure,
quick?
go ahead.
Hypothetically speaking, if you can give me an average cost of a sign that you've done for business in Chino Valley, based on your 48 square feet.
A 48 square foot permanent
Yes.
sign?
Mm-hmm.
A 48 square foot permanent sign would probably be about $700.
Okay, thank you.
And what is it? what-
Yes, it, I mean,
No,
there's
I
some
know, I'm
really,
just looking for a real
Tom,
rough.
what is
real
a
rough.
typical banner?
Flag
What's the
sign.
cost flag sign?
A typical flag sign, ours are 2 by 12, roughly. There's some cutouts and some shapes and stuff
Mhm.
like that, so it's roughly 24 square foot.
Right,
$24?
Cost.
dollar amount.
Cost, I'm sorry, thank you. It totally depends. The flags that we sell are custom made. They are higher quality and they are $192 for a double-sided sign, $170 for a single-sided sign. There's a ton of them out there that you can buy from Amazon.com or whatever that are cheaper material and they're generic, and that's the most of what you see out there. It says barber, it says breakfast, it says open, it says whatever, and those are the type of things that are cheaper, and you can get those for like $75.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so my 5 minutes are starting. Okay. This is pretty tough to go over. There's a ton of stuff here.
Well, we want to limit it so everybody can.
Absolutely, I
That's-
completely
that's
understand.
it.
But as you guys are talking, I'm scribbling like a mad person here.
Okay.
So I'll try and do the best I can here. I don't think there really was a sign issue in Chino. Yes, there were a few that were not looking well, that were in they weren't maintained, and a lot of that was because we didn't have a staff. Now we have a staff. Our staff has done a good job of clearing out all the signs. I'd like to see how we could do towards encouraging them to be maintained. In the last couple of years, we had great community and town collaboration. I've got a wonderful schedule that was put out by past staff that we did as far as outreach and communication with both. Most of the current council was on the planning and zoning or the council when this last ordinance was enacted, so that was really your ordinance. And early this year, new staff was hired and struggled with the temporary sign ordinance wording. As a longtime sign committee member, I tried to help. It's taken it has taken since June, but last Thursday, the Board of Adjustments agreed with myself and fellow committee members from the public, Penny Hubble, Gary Denny, and Jim Runner, that temporary sign permits are renewable. The town staff's reports from 2016 show that clear intention and long-standing practice. Covered that pretty good, so I'm pretty happy with that. I really like the part that Corey read in the UDO that we call for the sign ordinance to promote economic vitality for business and services. I think that's pretty important. Every business owner or organization we've spoken to would like to continue to have the ability to advertise products and events that both serve our organization's needs and those of our community. That's basically what a lot of these signs are, at least for me. This is products and services that we have that are important and needed. And we're a drive-through town, so we have a lot of businesses or a lot of people driving through, say to the big orange box in town to buy something. And if they were aware that they could get the same or much better service at our A to Z hardware store here in Chino Valley, they might stop, and we would then capture that sales tax dollar. That's what I think is important to our town, is capturing those outside dollars that we are not able to always get if they just drive right by. The amount of businesses and builders in town that have stopped to get blueprints at my shop because they knew they could get blueprints here, it saved them an hour of going into town, dealing with somebody in the big city, and then getting back onto their job site. I just saved them an hour, and we just captured those sales tax dollars. Those are what we use those signs for, basically, and that's what it was intended. So that's pretty important. I'd like to see some clarity on the fee schedule. Joshua Cook put that up there. I think that's very important. I was very frustrated because it was a specific item on my recent Board of Adjustment hearing, and I'd like to hear that addressed by council. In staff's letter for my hearing, staff changed the wording on the council's adopted fee schedule. This, it says $5 per month, and it was changed to $5 per sign, and that's a council ordinance, so I'd like to see that clarified, please. This change would be a big expense and a burden on businesses, specifically the mom and pops. A big corporate outfit wouldn't notice a couple $100 extra in permit fees, but the small, just starting out folks sure will. On the permanent sign side, staff's changes can make the permanent fee actually more expensive than the sign itself. It's something that I would like to have addressed. And then consequences, I talked about us being a drive-through town. Business and organizations rely on temporary signs. They are hurting. Our sales tax is already higher than other neighboring cities. Local businesses are losing sales. Local churches, organizations are not able to make people aware of events like they have previously. Drive-through town, we need to compete that way. If they can go there and spend less money because their sales tax is lower, or they go there because they don't know we have products, we're hurting. We really need some help with that. We've addressed this previously, and that's why we ended up with the code that we had. I've got 300 signatures. I'd like to know where Lon's 50-50 was, but because I've got 300 signatures here and 2 don't like the signs. The other 300 do. Temporary signs are kind of defined in our code.
Thank you, Tom. If we have more questions, we'll ask you to come back later. All right, who else would like to speak? Please don't cover the same items, please. Yes, sir, come on up. Give us your name.
I'm William Nichols. Our business is a CBD Connection. Our signs, the feather flags, our landmark. Today's a perfect example of what I had come in my shop down in PV. We had to open a second shop down there just to stay afloat. We weren't ready for that, but it's working out. An elder gentleman came in a walker today. He's been off the product for 3 months because he couldn't find us. He doesn't listen to the radio. He doesn't read the papers. And he can't see that silly little sign on the marquee that's on the property. We can't change that because the landlord isn't prepared to do it. Okay, so we can't get a big sign that's readily visible. Okay, that feather flag that's moving is the landmark that people use to find us. Okay, like Tom says, yeah, we're hurting. Things are getting real tight. I don't know if business picks up in Prescott, we might survive. If it doesn't, under the current methodology, we're going to go under. Okay, our business is set back so far from 89 that it cannot be seen at a glance. It's not possible. Okay, so there's our major concern. I don't know what else to do with this. Just put it out there, and I have to rely on y'all to do what you can to make this work. Now, as far as keeping the signs clean, we have replaced them on a regular basis to keep them sharp, clean, and attractive. Because we know that if they get trashy, they're not going to bring any attention to us. Okay, we know that. I think most business owners understand that. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am, come on up, please. Tell us your name.
I'm Molly Schneider. I'm an associate broker with Casa Realty.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna ask you to repeat that so it can be recorded.
Okay. My name is Molly Schneider, and I am an associate broker at Casa Realty here in Chino. Our office sits back from the office too, or sits back from the highway also. And sometimes folks miss us. We purchased 2 of the feather signs to get folks' attention. It worked. With our Chino winds, they are always in motion. I can understand why the town council may not want signs on town property or on the highway easements. However, we all pay a yearly license fee to do business in the town of Chino. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and when that picture is in motion, it gets a whole lot more attention. It also brings more business to our company. When we make more money, the town makes more money. New residents become a source of income for the town of Chino Valley. Our job is to find places for them to live and show them and those feather signs show them to get their attention, and then they see, like was mentioned before, the various businesses that are here. That if they sit back from the highway, or if they can't see the sign, I understand that. What I'm asking you to please reconsider is your thoughts on this issue. And I too understand and agree that each business owner needs to be responsible to keep that sign looking good. Nobody wants our town to look trashy, especially those of us who do business in this town. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to speak?
Wendy.
Wendy, come on up.
My name is Wendy McManigal. I'm here from Tom's Print and Sign and community member here. I live here in Chino Valley. I have just a story of what Feather Flags have done for us just recently. We put up when we started doing t-shirts, we put up a feather flag that stated that we do t-shirts. And very shortly afterwards, a gentleman who has an Uber company that spans from Phoenix to Prescott to Lake Havasu, Bullhead City to Flagstaff, stopped in because he saw we do shirts. While he was inside our store, he says, "Oh, you guys do vehicle graphics. I have a fleet of vehicles." "Oh, you do business cards. I need 20,000 business cards for each of my locations." This is an ongoing sale now. He comes to us with a few cards every week. We bill him on a Friday for all the things that we do for him. This has been huge for us. There's 24,000 cars that go up and down this highway on a given day. And if we can't capture that business as a thoroughfare from us to the Grand Canyon or to Williams or to all the other destinations that people from the valley go through, we're missing a lot of opportunities for our town. And the other thing that I have is that not only are temporary signs, and if I'm not allowed to talk about this, you let me know, please, Mayor. Not only are temporary signs not being handled correctly, but in the last few months, I've had 3 customers come in, new businesses, bringing their businesses to Chino Valley, who want to get signage for their business. They have been told by staff, when they come to us, we tell them that maybe their design doesn't work because it's a dark sky laws that we have, or whatever. We tried to help them so that they're not going through the process blind. We also tell them that they need to go to the town, they're a new business, they need to go to the town and get a permit, and then after that, then we can start going on their sign and doing that kind of thing. They have been told, these 3 customers, and I am not allowed to say their names, that they have been told by staff that they do not need a permit because there is an existing fixture. So my question is how does our town monitor if the sign is compliant or not, if it's not being brought to if the permit process is not being used? We have many signs that we have had to pass because we were honest with the client and said this goes against code. We cannot have this much white in the background of the sign. Dark sky ordinance. We now have several of those signs up and down our highway that did not have to go through that process and are against code. That's another issue that I have with that. It says in the, in the code that already that these shall be maintained and in good repair. And if there is a safety issue, they should be removed. We're not asking that we have ugly signage or disrepaired signage or anything like that. We're asking to be able to utilize these items to bring more business to our town, to our businesses where we spend our money, and that we prosper. And it is hurting people.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir, come on out. Tell us your name. Hello, Cloyce. Councilman Cloyce has shown up, so I want to include him.
I'm Rob Valenzuela. My wife and I, my wife Laura and I own and operate Insurgent Brewing Company here in town. Hopefully all of you have heard of me. If you haven't, you're missing out. Anyway, I don't recall exactly when, but close to a year ago, ADOT came into my establishment and told me that my sandwich board was on the right of way. And I asked the guys, I'm like, you know, I've been here for 2.5 years, and you guys are just getting around to figuring this out? He's like, well, the town's been saying and calling us. I'm like, all right. I didn't make any big deal of it. I figured it'll all come out sooner or later, and apparently it has. So, that sandwich board brought in a lot of business because the storefront, if you will, of the building I'm in does not face the highway. A lot of people drive right by, and that sandwich board was on the highway, and I can't think of anything more beautiful than a sign that says beer. So we kept it up. We changed it. We offer weekly food specials now. So this whole thing about, you know, having a temporary sign but it can only be out, or if it's an event, I mean, I have events that go on every week. So, you know, that wouldn't work for me. I don't really know about the right-of-way aspect of this whole thing, you know, because there's a parkway, if you will, between the parking lot and the highway. The sign that I put up was in the dirt, so it didn't block the sidewalk. As far as I know, it was never caused any safety concerns. We did it at one point, erect a feather flag, if you will. It said cold beer, but that only lasted, what, a couple weeks. So it's important to me at my location currently that I can be able to pull people in off the highway because they cannot see my front. I do have a 4x8 sign on the wall painted on the building, which you cannot see from the highway. So there are a lot of people that it's their hobby in life to go from brewery to brewery to brewery, and I'm on the loop now, so if they can't find me, I miss out on that, as well as all those dollars come to the town. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm getting a cupcake.
You're sweet enough.
I've been called a lot of things before. My name's Todd League, and I am pastor of Word of Life Assembly, and we own Overflow Coffee and also Light Pregnancy Center. And I was at the Board of Adjustments hearing last Thursday, and I think they made the right decision by what was presented. But they were going to make a recommendation to council to rewrite the code. And I struggle with that because everything that was talked about is covered in one aspect or another of the code. And I, you know, I don't want to over legislate because there's no way to legislate for every contingency. It's not possible. And so what has to be employed is some kind of common sense. when there's a decision being made. And I agree, there's some things we could tweak here and there, but to over legislate it makes me nervous. As the church, you know, if we start limiting how many days, a quarter or a month, you know, we have Halloween is coming up, Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas is coming up. And so a church is gonna do all three of those events, and we're gonna wanna put up a banner that says, for our Thanksgiving, we've done it for 17 years now. You know, Thanksgiving, community Thanksgiving dinner, free to the community, anyone can come, Tuesday, whatever it is I don't even know what day it is this month, Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and we put that up at the beginning of November, and it runs through that thing. If we start limiting that type of thing, you're gonna limit what the church does. The coffee shop, you know, I sent our manager in to get a permit, and they were told, you can't have a temporary permit to put up a coffee sign, you know, whatever the flavor of the month is. And my personality is, you know, if you tell me I can't have something, then I assume that I don't have to have it, and you can't hold me responsible for it. That was my personality, and that's my thought. I'm concerned that we over legislate a sign ordinance when it was working, other than some feather flags, and I agree. I like the 6-month thing. Every 6 months, if you put up you re-up, then you put up a new feather flag. You're not allowed to put the old one up, whatever. We can tweak this a little bit without over legislating. And that's my concern. It has affected Overflow Coffee, and I'm afraid that it'll affect the church too. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
No, you're not allowed yet.
I'm gonna recuse myself.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna repeat what everybody said.
Thank you.
Just real quick, David Rowe with Clayton Homes and Oakwood Homes. We've taken everything down. We're at a point now to where we're putting up houses with high roof pitches, and we put in planters and decor to try to grab some attention. We're another one that we're so far off the highway, people think we're a storage yard. And we've had people come in and say, oh, we drove by, and then we saw the sign, we turn around, and we realized we thought you were a storage yard. So we do need something that gets the attention, just to realize that we're not a storage yard. We're two Berkshire Hathaway companies, and everywhere else they have banners, financing banners and all of that stuff to show what we can do for people, and USDA programs and all that. So we do need to have something that gets the word out that we're there to sell them a home and all that. So
Okay, thank you. Pastor, will you come down? Sure. Do you have your pink shoes on tonight?
No, orange. I didn't wear my pink pants for you tonight. I left those at home. Mr. Mayor calls me Pinky. My name is Wayne Ballard. I'm the pastor at Grace Church on the corner of Outer Loop Highway. It is no longer Grace Baptist Church. It is Grace Church. We've just gone through a name change. In fact, about a month and a half ago, we changed our sign and no one's seen it. 23,000 cars drive through every day, and half of our congregation didn't even notice that we changed our sign. So I say that, but I want to let you know that our signs are really huge. We put banners out for all of our various programs, and as Pastor Todd mentioned, we'll have multiple programs within a quarter. My concern is not that. My concern is if you limit me to 5 days, most cars are not even going to notice there was a sign up for the first 5 days. And so my concern is, as our best advertising is to put 23,000 cars drive by. They're driving by at 45 miles an hour. If they don't have an opportunity to read my sign on the way through as they race through the roundabout, I've got a lot of challenges. I appreciate your wisdom. I know that you are working for the best interest of the town. We understand the balance that we're trying to strike with the beauty of the town, and as well as the doing what's right by the business owners, and I know the impact is great. I thank you tonight for all of your time and energy in this, and I just want to say thanks for letting the community come and have a word. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to cut this up, but I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you would be happy to have feather signs back on a 6-month basis?
Well,
Wait. What?
Wait a minute, let me do this. On a 6-month basis, thank you. That's the question I'm asking.
If it's renewable, yes.
Well, that's the next question. That's something that's gonna come from the, somebody come up and tell me how we can resolve this problem from the municipality. Gary, come on up and tell me how to resolve this problem.
It's like a reunion of friends.
Gary Warren, Warren's Hazemore. And that's why I didn't get to speak earlier. I wanted to let them get out. I have a recommendation in which a lot of you have had pieces of that. And so I think you're on the right track if you can come to consensus. There's a discrepancy on temporary signs, and I think some of you hit on it. Temporary sign until that business gets started is one thing, but then we're also talking about temporary signs for these different specials like Insurgent Brewery. That's a whole different thing. So I think you need to separate that temporary sign as your permanent sign, and either event sign, temporary sign, whatever you want to call it, change the verbiage. Those are important and they're part of the code. I think you need to keep that cost down as far as renewing these, because if we're gonna renew them, as Tom said, you're gonna spend $100 to $200 for a new feather sign. I think the 6-month thing is appropriate. If you do not maintain your flag at the end of 6 months, you don't get your permit renewed. That way, you as a town council, as zoning enforcement, have a way to stop that. The county is set up on a complaint basis on a lot of their things as well. So if there's a complaint on it, it comes to your attention, you have recourse somehow to fix that. Yes, we should police those ourselves as much as we can, but you know that's not gonna happen, as been said before. So I think if you just do this on a 6-month basis, I think it was said that you get 2 feather signs with your permanent building permit. I think that's appropriate, have it aggregate, as we said before, so that it is limited. And if you decide to change that to 75-25, whatever makes sense, but those flags are important, we see them all the time. And I wanna mention 2 other businesses that are not in the same predicament as this. One of them is Chino Glass, sits way off the highway, and the other one is El Charo, which sits even further off the highway. We don't have any off-site signs allowed, so you might wanna consider what we might be able to do for those businesses as well as all the rest of them that we've talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anybody else have a solid answer how we can resolve this issue? Sure, come on up. Evidently, they know you. We know you.
I'm Jeff Emwell with A to Z Home Center. A lot has been said of the same thing that I would say, but as far as possibly a resolve, it's talked about permanent sign, and just something I feel is if you don't take the time to get your permanent sign, that you can't be allowed to have the flag banner signs until you do. If you're gonna be a business in town, I'd say that it's important you're gonna make yourself permanent with your permanent sign. If you're gonna do it with temporary flags wavings, I don't think that's really right. So maybe you can have you can't get those permits to have a flag sign until you have a permanent sign. And you can have your permanent sign with the intentions of getting your temporary sign with getting the intentions of getting your permanent sign. As soon as you have your permanent sign, then we can come and get this permit. The thing that I don't like hearing too, or that's really, really hard as a business owner, if you're gonna have a flag sign to go down and pay for a permit, if it's 6 months or whatever it is set up for, it's really hard for the business owner to take the time to try and figure out when to be able to go and get that. It's expensive already to get the signs that we're only trying to do to help build business within this community. Everybody needs that and wants that. I want that. I want to figure out a way to stop the people that are driving up and down this road right here in Chino Valley. We already have been said higher tax rate. Every dollar that's spent here becomes more money for the city. I say save the city personnel's time not having to do permits for it. Once you have a permanent sign, you basically have gone and got your permit to let them have those banner signs that go along with it. And again, us as fellow business owners, I'm totally for, we watch our town. We want it to look good. If you got a trashy sign, I'd say let us be the police of that. Let us be able to stop and say, and without businesses getting upset, it was told to you when you got your permit, and if you don't take care of it, you don't keep it up, if it's tipping over in the middle of the sidewalk, A-frame sign for an example for Insurgent tips over and it's in the sidewalk, somebody has to say something, it's up to them to get it, you know, either nailed down or into place. If a flag sign's tipping over and it becomes a trip hazard into the street or the sidewalk, somebody else can help obviously say that or talk about it. If we let our signs become tattered, we certainly should be able to see it ourselves. It doesn't do any good for the business if your sign's gonna be tattered, ugly, looks like you're out of business anyway. So if we can't police that ourselves, then certainly I would think other business owners could help us police our problems. And save that money that is being involved here for the city, because I do think it gets pretty expensive for the city to take care of something like that. But we need to draw every dollar into this town we can, and that's what really the bottom line is. If it's through church events and somebody comes here and starts liking a church and they start coming here, and the next thing you know they get done with church and they want to go for coffee and they didn't even know where to go, but they seen a sign that drew them into it, those tax dollars are now being spent for this town to make more money. I don't really think the permit fee, as well as other lots of government fees that get, you know, let's look at the ultimate, which is to increase revenue for everybody. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Can we talk about that?
Thank you. Let me say something.
Thank you, Frank.
Last year, I decided we probably needed to clean the streets up a little bit, and then we hired another person to do it. So you really haven't performed very well in the past of keeping your streets clean. So here we are, we have to trust that you will do that. But you need to go out, if you have a business person that you know that is not keeping it up, you as a business community need to go out and make them do something. So the town doesn't have to do it. I'd like to get rid of that person that's doing that to try to clean the town up, but it hasn't worked well so far. So hopefully it would in the future. Yes.
I think, are we ready, are we back to us?
Yeah, Maggie has.
My love was basically chime in.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so most of you know me, I'm economic development, I'm Maggie for the town, so I'm business advocate. There's a major difference between Lantana Plaza with 50 flags than your Clayton Homes and your CBD and your Insurgent. It doesn't look clustery, it just draws business in. That's all I have to say. Cause the ones that, you know, Lantana, they're all afraid and you can't see them, but if there's 15 flags there, you're not gonna see one business. But you guys only have one.
I think as a town council, we'd be very happy to see the business community get together and police themselves. That hasn't worked in the past. We've invited businesses community to come in and talk to us. That didn't work, so.
And by the way, there are 30,000 cars plus a day now.
Yeah, well, 30,000 cars pass through here in the daytime. Okay. Anybody else have any suggestions? Okay, let's go around the room. Let's start over here with,
I get to go first?
yeah, what do you think?
Well,
Spot?
I really like what this gentleman said about the permanent signs. Whatever we do with the rest of it,
Which gentleman just jumped? Jeff?
Jeff?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Whatever we do
Jeff,
with the
don't-
rest of the signs, whatever we do with special event signs, all that aside, if a business owner comes in, gets a permit, and puts up a permanent sign of the correct size, everything's good to go, they get waived their fees for their flag signs, however we decide to use them.
Forever and ever and ever?
Yep. Once their permanent sign's in, they don't have to pay any more for their other signs,
Okay.
For their
Flags.
for their flags. However we decide, whether it's 5 in a month, or 15 in a quarter, or every day,
comment to that.
yes.
If you have a business that comes and gets their temp, does their permanent, then puts up a flag, and then goes 2 years with that same flag aflop, and how are we gonna tell them they can't have it?
The
Well,
business has
they'd
got to
still
take
be
care
under
of
the same rules that they have to keep them in good shape.
So then the town's gonna police or the business gonna police?
Well, I mean, I would,
Both.
I
Both.
would love to see neighbors
But then,
police
It ain't
each
gonna
other.
happen,
And
so
you know,
now how does the town do it?
it really, it can work. It's not gonna work all the time,
right,
but I don't wanna say the word I normally use, but it really bothers me to see an American flag that is tattered.
Mhm.
I have many times
Absolutely.
over the years
Yep.
stopped at a business, mentioned the fact their American flag was tabbed, and I've actually given them new 5x3s to put up so that they can take their old one down. Okay, so I don't think there's anything wrong with business owners
We'll get it
saying to their neighbor, hey bud, you know, maybe you haven't noticed, but you're fraying pretty bad up there. Maybe it's time to replace that.
Josh, what's the fee for
For a permanent sign?
temporary?
Temporary
For a
sign,
temporary flag, feather
from
flag or
the
what?
moment I got here, it's $5 per month per sign.
$5 per month, so if it's 6 months, yeah.
$30
$60 a year.
for one sign, $60 a year
That's not what the fee
for 6
schedule
months.
says.
I see people not shaking their head no.
That's not what the fee schedule says.
The fee schedule says temporary signs, $5 per month.
Per month.
Okay,
And temporary signs are aggregate, says that in the code. So it's not per sign per month, it's $5 per month.
per
That's your fee
business.
schedule, I can show it to you.
Per business or per sign?
It's per
It's been
month.
interpreted
That's where they
per sign.
disagree.
It doesn't say per business.
It says per month.
They disagree.
They
So
disagree.
there's really no guidelines, you
What do
just
you
said per
charge?
month.
No, there is.
Since I've gotten here and before, it's been $5 per sign per month.
Is that in
That's,
the ordinance?
I haven't changed that. That's,
Is that in the ordinance?
I'm having flashbacks.
This is the fee schedule.
Planning and zoning.
This is the fee schedule that Mr. Cook provided to me with my letter. And you can see it says temporary signs, $5 per month.
Land use signs, temporary signs per month, $5. Doesn't say per sign.
It doesn't say per sign, but his letter and the letter from the nice attorney gentleman over there.
He has a cute dog.
I bet. I got one in the car. He's waiting for me.
Per sign?
It has always been an application
permit.
fee. I have all the applications, I can show you a couple
Okay.
of them with me right now. It's always an application fee of $5 for a temporary sign and $100 for a permanent sign. I've got those. They've recently changed it to add their per sign language.
So
And that's a
does the-
council adopted
Does the
fee schedule.
business have to come in every month and get a new
It used to
permit?
be that way. We used to have to go in every month, 30 days at a time and get our permits. And then we decided that was too short, too many instances of interaction with staff, and staff didn't like that either. And so we went, actually at one point, we went a year with having the same one permit. And as a business and town staff at a committee meeting, we decided that was too long and we shortened it to 6 months. And the reason we did that was for more staff and business interaction, to give staff an opportunity to review a permit and say you didn't take care of the last one, you ain't getting another one. And it required the business owner to step up and to go down and get a new permit and to hopefully take that opportunity to take care of their sign.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
If I may, just a question, but does the city depend on the income to come from the temporary sign permitting basis?
No.
So to go down to the city to get a temporary sign, it takes me time and it costs money, and it's gonna take the person who we're going to get the permit from time and cost money to the city. If we just could possibly help with policing the situation at the businesses, which I hear is the problem. It's the tattered signs, it's the laying over, it's the tripping or the hazard, it's the pole that's broken from the flag sign. I don't understand where you just get told, if you have a permanent sign, you're now on the city's radar. And if you go in, if we need to get a temporary sign then permit for the flag signs, we get it. And if you violate, you could draw something up into code that says if you violate, safety, violate, looks, beauty, whatever. And I know that can be pretty broad, like who says the sign's tattered yet, who says it's faded, who says this or that. I know that's up to you guys. I think it should be drawn in. But once we decide that, if you can't have a sign up permanent that's a temporary, so 6 months max, if you leave a flag sign out and you're going past 6 months, you have to change it. If you don't change it, somebody has from getting the sign, and they know that it's been up longer than that through photos or whatever. I mean, anybody can take a photo driving by and know some of it, policing, everybody can do that. You break the rule, you lose your opportunity for future.
First of all,
and
the
put
town
out.
needs to know who put signs up, so somebody has to apply for the sign, so we have a record of who
Right,
puts
so,
the sign up.
so you can apply for it, but once you do, and if you
then
take care of it.
you need to pay for the processing, so that's simple, $5.
It's fair.
Fair. Per sign.
Interjection.
That ain't-
Interjection.
Sure.
It's almost your turn.
For how
It's
long?
almost my turn?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know, that's
If you're
what we
speaking
use.
from the audience, could you please speak at the microphone?
Yeah.
We can't pick it up on the recording. All right?
Annie, go
Thanks.
ahead.
Okay, my interpretation, may I see that again, please?
Yeah, let's see if we can get a
Because
microphone.
that's probably where I got my heart complications. It says here clearly, this was effective January 2000, no amendment, May 24, 2018. So, land use signs, temporary signs, plural, per month, $5. Land use signs, permanent signs, plural, one-time fee, $100. With it being written as signs, plural, on both of that, the $5, to me, it's interpreted as $5, not per sign, but per application. That's my thought on that one. And that goes for permanent signs, one-time fee. I mean, it's written as plural. It's not, it doesn't say temporary sign per month. Signs, temporary signs, plural, per month, $5.
But are you allowed to have like as many temporary signs as you want, flags?
It's actually,
Okay, I guess my question is, Tom, can you have 15 of those out in front of your business?
as long as it's not over 48
See?
square feet.
There's a 48 square foot,
Period
Yeah,
on it.
period.
Okay,
so that equates to
Okay.
two normal
signs.
flag
Okay.
signs.
Two signs.
no matter what. So, but places like Lantana Plaza, or some of the other ones, you could have 10 of them out there because,
But it's per business, two per business.
Depends on the size of the business.
The frontage
The
of the
frontage.
building.
Not for the
Not right
temporaries,
now.
not for the temporaries.
That's what we
Not
wrote
on
into
the
the code.
temporaries,
That's
just
what-
on the
right.
permanent.
Yeah.
so that's where the over proliferation can occur then. Some of these that are,
That's the issue.
Okay, so I
Jack,
really
come on in,
liked
Jack.
this.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
No.
No.
I thought we were
I think
coming
You cutting her off again?
Okay, let's
I'm
go
not
with,
even wearing a
let's
skirt
go with
today.
Mike. Mike, do you have anything to say?
I'm
And
still
she's talking.
And he's not done yet.
She couldn't for
Finish.
Mike, go ahead.
oh,
You wanna,
Manny, finish and I'll talk after
you want
get
Annie
done.
to finish, okay. Go ahead, Manny.
Pray for me, Pastor. For the love. Okay. I like the idea of you. Okay. My pet peeve has been a new business comes in, they get their temporary sign, and then put up banner flags. That's what we used to call them, the feather flags. I like the idea of, hey, you get your permanent signage up, you get your 2 banner flags, call it a day, instead of going through the different processes. I like that idea a lot. I don't like that the temporary signage for new businesses gets reviewed or renewed, and that's why I asked originally, what's the average cost per sign? Because if you're only doing it once, if the average cost is $700, and then you put the banner flags, feather flags in with it, it makes more financial sense than going and redoing the temporary sign. So if we could marry those two together with the permanent sign, and then you get the 2 feather flags in with it. And I'm honest, I don't like the feather flags. I understand, I'm not voting one way or the other because of what I like. I don't, if I had it my way, I would find someone to find a grant to put facades over the whole town buildings, all of them up and down the 89, and beautify them and make them look fantastic. And that's just me speaking the truth. But that's not a reality. Instead, we're talking about feather flags. I like the idea of a permanent sign with the feather flags along with it. As far as event signage, I don't think we're in the business of constituting what's an event and what's not. And I understand with the churches, they have events constantly. Same with a lot of businesses. But that's a slippery slope too, because they, well, this is my event, you know, I'm having a sale. You can have a sale 30 days a month. You know, there's not really a way to differentiate between the two. That's where I'm at.
Okay, Mike?
Okay,
Mike, please.
go right ahead. I like the idea of a business coming in, and our businesses that are here having permanent signs. And I'll pick on our churches that go ahead and have the electronic signs, and they have their events changing every month or every so often as to what they're doing. I like the idea of our Southern Baptist Church and what they put up, their sayings and stuff, and I don't care. People see that stuff, and I hear words coming back about, you know, what they're doing. They had a choir group in, what have you. Them are events, and they have it taken care of on their sign. If you're set back, like some of our businesses are, they don't have any permanent sign on the highway. And maybe they need to talk to the landlord to see what we can make on the highway that would go ahead and recognize their business being on the back half. I'll leave it up to development as to the size of the sign. I know it can't be white, it can't be super colors to go ahead and distract driving. ADOT will go through the roof if we're causing accidents because of your sign. But the idea of our temporary feather flags, I know they bring business. I'm not a fan of them, but I understand why you need them. So if you bought your permanent sign on front and you had where your insurgent business is, you've got a auto shop behind you, you've got the skillet, and you got the furniture place. So the four of you have to figure out a way, and on the corner, to go ahead and say who's in this block. Same way with Lantana. They've got to go ahead, same way with where Coffee Overflow is. I don't think all of you at one time could put enough feather flags on the highway to advertise all of your events. Where Overflow Coffee is, you've got, how many, 8 businesses in there? You don't have enough highway to go ahead and put 16 feather flags up there. So, that still needs to be.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Wait. We're coming around the table.
Okay.
And then you can respond.
Well, I know we had a realtor stand up. This is kind of a rhetorical statement. Frontage property costs more money for a reason, especially in commercial, because that has the exposure. When you go and rent a business that's in the back of a property, you know, you're kind of bringing that on yourself. So that I'm not. That's just a fact of life. If you want to be up front, you got to pay more. I like Jeff's idea of the feather flags only after a permanent flag.
Permanent sign.
For the sign, I'm sorry, yes. Which goes back to my original of, so using your allocated square footage, whether it be a 50-50, and it sounds like that's very, very close to a doable amount. I think the event flags, though, are something completely different. That you can have your church, and you have your church signs within the guidelines given, but then you can come in, and this is where we were working on committee, trying to figure out what is a fair amount of event times. And like Lon said, 15 days per quarter. Now, there's quite often when you think 15 days per quarter, there's some events where the circus is coming, or you want to advertise, say, 30 days in advance. You could use the last 15 days of a quarter and possibly the first 15 days of your quarter. So you could, for a large events, actually get up to 30 days of exposure, and those are for events. But as far as that then allows a business, you can have your sign, you can have your two feathers to get your attention, but it also allows you 15 days per quarter for your individual big events, which those now will have a permit fee to them, ever how we structure something like that. Private property, and I don't know if this is even something that the town addresses, that when your business is within a strip mall, I think you're under the rules of your landlord on just what you can do there and not do there. I don't know, and this would be between Josh and legal, as far as when you come to strip malls, multi-business blocks like that, how we make provisions in there, whether we even can, or does each individual business now, I'm not sure how that works between a landlord and the town code. So I think
We have provisions for building signage that's for the entire building. We have tenant signage. We treat them as two different categories. There, might be Jones Plaza will have a certain amount of signage for the aggregate group, but then each business might be able to have certain types of signage themselves, whether those are the ones that hang on the sidewalk or whether it's a small one on the wall. It's usually aggregated so that the business owner, the plaza owner, has to figure out how to allocate it all up front, and they have a comprehensive sign package. They come in and get it all figured out and approved. But that's a permanent sign package. That you don't really have that same concept in terms of temporary signs.
So the independent business owners within a strip mall hopefully can work together with the landlord on who's going to be able to put their flags out on the curb for that period of time.
He's talking about the flags.
You're talking about two different
Yeah.
things. Your permanent sign, if you go into some of the bigger towns and they've got a mall area, something like that, then you'll see one large sign and every business is on there. If you got Taco Bell and a furniture store or whatever, they're all listed on there. But that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about with the flag signs, if we're going to go ahead and allow that.
But if they allocate so much of their 50% in their typical sign, that still would allow them their other 50 for their flags.
Yes.
That's really confusing.
Yeah,
Well,
that's why-
unfortunately, everything in this is confusing.
That's why I asked the question, because I don't know that we have accommodated in the current code for allocation of temporary signage amongst the individual users in a business like that.
Okay.
It's,
I'm wanting to get away from the term temporary. To me, temporary is nothing more than when you put up your spray painted sign, coming soon,
the
Tom's
special
Auto
event
Repair.
signs.
That is to me, the only time that a temporary word should be used, because it truly is temporary.
So special event signs is what you're focused on.
Special event sign would then be,
And I don't think we have currently, and if it's your intent to allocate to individual businesses within one that have a comprehensive permanent sign package for the entire strip mall, we don't have that beast at the moment. And we would have to try and figure out how you would allocate and how you would deal with that. And the problem is, like Juan mentioned earlier, is 10 businesses, now you've got 20 flags, and so that's going to be a challenge.
and that's why I bring that up, so that something can be done, because your situation where you have so many of you right in one strip, CBD people, same thing, so many of you in that same strip, and Lantana Plaza, so we have that situation here. So I think we do need to address how we allocate, uses for them,
Is-
not only just the individual
Is
business.
Lantana Plaza the business owner, or is each individual business the business owner? So
They lease,
They're leased, I think.
they were leasing.
they're leasing, they're lessees, they're not necessarily, so.
So anyway, that is my suggestion as far as, again, allocating somebody whatever their allotted square footage. They can divide that to a maximum of 50-50 from their hard sign to their feather signs or something of that sort. And then again, the events are a completely separate, in that we limit to so many times per year.
Can I just ask a question, cause I'm a little confused? So are you saying the feather flags, you could have 24 square feet each, right? So those aren't necessarily your event flags, so if you're having a
Those
sale.
are not your event flags. Those are not your special event flags.
But you
Those
could
are
have your
part of
special event flag that looks exactly like that, right?
You could.
Okay.
You could.
I'm just a little confused,
You-
cause
You're limited to your 48, when you get your sign permit, you're limited to your 48 combined feet. If you wanna do 24 feet of hard sign and 24 foot of flag, of feathers, that's how you
and
put
then
it
special
yourself.
event is separate.
But
Business
special
could
event,
have 2 feather flags plus a special event flag. Is that at the same time, is that what you're saying?
possibly even at the same time.
That's,
Okay, that's what I was trying to make sure I
Because again,
understood.
but those are paid for, you know.
If I'm hearing you right, Corey, but that, yeah, so you're gonna pay for your special event, you're gonna go.
Come on up.
No, we have a
It's
mic.
not working.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, I think
So,
she wanted.
if I'm hearing you right, Corey, your
Yeah,
special
perfect.
event would become, that's where you go, get your permit, you're gonna pay for it, it's a separate situation, and it's only gonna be allowed for whatever temporary period that you come up with.
15 days. Say, yes.
So the other can be pretty cut and dry on what you're allowed based on what you got permitted for, did your business for, got your permanent sign for, and then special event, you go down, apply, take the person's time, spend the fee that you come up with, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And I,
So
as a
if you're
business
doing
owner, I would like that.
if the realtor is set off the highway, if say that, the realty woman, that your business is set off of the highway, you can have your feather flag in conjunction with your sign. Now, if you wanna have a really get to know me kind of thing, you can come in and pay for a special event, go out and put whatever we allocate, the amount, you put up your 10 flags for that one weekend.
It's the same question, so go ahead.
go ahead, Tom.
Time's up.
I'm working on it. And I apologize. Our community needs events. Our community needs things to do. Our kids needs things to do. Our church members need things to do. We need things to do. The more opportunity we have to give them something to do, the better it is for the community. And it's really hard for a church, and I can change hats because I help out with putting on events, trying to get things in, to have to go down to the town and to ask permission to put up a sign that says I'm having a vacation Bible school and whatnot, and to figure out the times and the quarters and the days and stuff like that is a challenge. We need as many opportunities for our kids and our people to do things here in our community versus going to all the events and stuff that's in the other cities. So I'd like to see some way to help that situation out better. We need things to do. We hear that over and over again in our community. So-
Let's go on to the next person.
This, one final thing, this becomes a legal thing. It would be nice to say, let's exempt churches, because that's a great, you can't do that. You legally can't do that. Is that correct?
Remember, there are two standards out in the sign world these days. There's Reed versus Gilbert, which would seem like an overall everything banned, can't look at the content of the sign. Then there's subsequent cases that talk about the other cases on commercial signage. Tonight, we're talking about commercial signage. I don't wanna stray into talking about church versus commercial or church commercial blend like we've heard tonight too, so let's stick with commercial tonight. Let's see if we can figure that out first, and then we'll deal with.
Fair enough.
This was written based off of Reed versus Gilbert's decision.
Right, but since that time, the Supreme Court has made it clear that we can touch commercial signage, time, place, and manner restrictions. And that's one of the things that people tend to forget.
I'm suing Reed for gray hairs.
Okay, Jack, come on.
I do not have a problem with the flag signs as long as they're kept up correctly. And I would be in favor of, I think it was Jeff that said, the temporary only until the permanent sign is up, and you would give them a time limit of whatever that would be to get your permanent sign up, and then allow a total of 24 square feet of the flag signs that can be whatever they want on a 6-month rotation, and there has to be some kind of a permit so that if they're not following, we can pull their permit. And I don't know about a fee for that, but.
Can I ask a question on that real quick?
Sure.
Just on the math, 24 square feet is typically one flag sign.
Okay, then whatever it is, 48 square. I was thinking of one side, but you're right, there's both sides in it.
No, I was just thinking
1 by 12 is.
the typical
No.
feather flag is 24 square feet.
Okay,
what
then
I've heard
48 square
And
feet,
they've had
So
whatever.
I think you were looking for 2 flags, right?
Yeah, 2 flags, and they can be whatever they want them to be. If it's a special event, if it's Thanksgiving dinner.
Let's hear from the attorney. How far are we off base?
What I really wanna make sure we understand is when we're done so that we can draft whatever this is going to be. Am I hearing, yeah, you're never gonna make that comment. Am I hearing correctly? Temporary signs to permanent signs, everybody's good with that, haven't heard anything different. So temporary is just that sign for startups. Permanent sign required, then you can get to having I'm gonna say used by right, that's not, without permit, 2 feather signs, 24 square feet apiece, that are part of your ongoing, out there all the time, never have to change them signage. Okay, there's updating, there's the maintenance requirements, that's different. But this is sign allowance, not sign maintenance, so the allowance would then be those 2. And then the special event signs we've been talking about are then subject to the times per quarter or whatever the council directs us in terms of the amount of time, the number of events and things. But those are all overlapping, simultaneous, can happen at the same time signs.
That's
Other than
my
temporary.
suggestion. Mine was permanent sign and the 2 flag signs that can be whatever you want them to be.
Okay, what
And
about
no special event?
Special event, you take down your other 2 flags, you put up your special event sign.
Okay.
I like that.
I like that.
That's what I said, 48 square foot. of-
Keep it in, it's all comes
a
within
sign,
your
whether
48 square
it's
feet.
We're open or we're having a barbecue on the 15th.
So that the special event sign total area comes out of your
48 square feet.
48 square feet.
Yes, sir.
Square feet.
Got it.
That's what my opinion.
Mayor, can you ask for a show of hands of this business community that would support that?
Do you understand that out in the business community, what that means?
Yes.
What they
Would that satisfy you in the business community?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, raise your hand.
Raise your hands, please.
So the 48 square feet,
Was the square
Whether
footage
it's-
correct?
whether it's special event,
sign permit.
Yes.
Your aggregate.
Okay.
and if you have a special event, it still has to be in
If
the
you have a
48 square
special
feet.
events, you either have to take a flag sign down, feather sign down for the special event and use that space.
Or get a
And
separate
when
permit.
it's done with the special event, you can
No,
put it back up.
he said
48
48 square
total.
feet total.
48 total.
Got it. I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but does everybody understand and follow that that's when you have a permanent sign?
When you have a-
Absolutely.
It's after you
have
put
to
up
have
the
a
permanent
permanent
sign.
sign.
Absolutely.
And everybody's good with that?
Yes.
That seems like.
What was the sign, the size of the permanent sign?
Depends on your square footage of your.
In the front.
frontage feet.
It depends on the type of sign as well.
What's that?
It depends on the type of sign as well. So your freestanding signs are allowed to be a certain size, your awning signs are allowed to be a certain, there's so many different kinds of permanent signs that each business is allowed to have.
And it sounds like we don't have any issues with that. We're just then allowing,
Need to get or whatever they choose to.
Is it then a ratio, like you described before? That whatever your permanent signage is that you have, that your total sign area, your permanent sign is 50 or 75%, whatever that number is. So if you've taken advantage of all the permanent signs that are allowed under the code, it's gonna then grow your temporary sign allowance.
No, it's not temporary.
I don't like that.
I mean, your feather sign allowance, sorry.
It's not
Because,
temporary.
Jeff, how big is your sign, square feet?
I honestly don't know what I allowed. It was based on what our footage was and the size of our building and all of that. And I can't answer that without researching.
Mine is currently 32 square feet, but under this code, it actually could be larger because of what Josh said earlier. Because the mileage is 45 miles an hour, my lettering in the sign could actually be bigger because it's based off the frontage of the building. So whatever that frontage is, but mine is under the old code at 32 square feet, 4 by
Well,
8.
if you took Safeway, for example, they could have a flag that was 37 foot tall.
Actually, no, they
If you
can't
went on a ratio.
under this code.
Well,
Yeah, so
square
the ratio
footage,
to-
but you can't go.
I
outside.
think
You
it's
could have
two-
height restrictions.
That's why I think it should
20
be limited to 48 square feet.
248
48 square feet.
48
of,
square feet.
of the
Two flags equals-
two flags
Equal to two
of
flags.
48 square
If you're
feet
gonna use
plus a
temporary,
permanent sign.
I need to see a visual of 48 square feet.
It's a sheet of plywood
That
close to
TV
it.
screen.
okay,
2 feet,
even,
12
even
feet
better.
tall.
His suggestion is that we have 48 feet, whatever it is. Whether it's a feather flag, or whether it's a sandwich board, or whether it is
A permanent sign?
but you have to have a permanent sign.
They want a flag. He wants a so just keep it all under
Right.
That would be easy.
Right.
But that's without worrying about the permanent sign. Or, yeah.
48 square feet. These guys can regulate.
But what do we call it? Cause
It's a
it
permanent,
is permanent,
it's a
but,
permanent sign.
so what do we,
permanent and
but
auxiliary.
permanent is
It's your bonus.
okay.
Auxiliary sign?
Semi-permanent.
Sorry, put auxiliary sign.
How about portable?
Wendy, come in and save us.
Yeah, but if they wanna talk about your permanent sign on your building
So if
and
you're
make sure
allowed
you
your
have that
two
first,
feather
you have to
signs
Hey,
over
hey.
your
Okay, wait a minute,
20
wait a minute.
24 square feet, no, 48 square feet of auxiliary signage, I decide I wanna take one of my 24 square foot down, leave the other 24 square foot up, I can put a 24 square foot banner up.
Yes.
auxiliary,
Yes.
that's a good word.
What do you think, Josh? You're the
I
one
just
that's-
want a code that I can interpret correctly.
Can you,
and
can you interpret that, Josh?
I will write it so that I can interpret it. And any
Portable or
predecessor I may
auxiliary?
or may not have can interpret it.
Ron,
Okay.
Argle bargle.
Question,
Bargle bargle.
on your banner. So you're saying if you wanna take one of your flags down, you wanna put up a 24 square foot banner, are you saying then that can be anytime? Leave it up as long as you want, type of thing?
If it's one of my auxiliary and I'm allowed 48 square feet, I have to take something down to put something else up. So if I leave up one banner, one feather flag at 48 square feet, then I can have a 4 by 6 banner or something else out there.
And that would be huge for like lending and stuff like that.
That would be huge for churches.
So if you're having a sale, you take down one of your feather flags and you put your sale sign up, as long as you're still at your 48.
Right, my only concern is, if we're gonna be 24/7 on the idea of having the feather flags up there 24/7, people are allowed to do it, right?
Yep.
When, after they have their permanent sign.
We take ours down every night because they last.
No, I'm saying every day. And we're, no limitations on how many days. But when you go to the banner, I kinda feel like,
It's still the same square footage.
yeah, I know, but as much as I don't really care that much for the feather flags, I think that the 48 square foot of feather flag in front of a business looks better than 48 square foot of a of
As
a
long as
plastic
it's-
banner hanging on
As
their
long as
fence.
it's vertical, you're good, but if it's horizontal, you're not.
Right, I think that it, I don't know, I just,
Chino?
I see then, I just think permanent banners are gonna look worse than permanent flags.
Lonnie?
It depends,
they can't
like
possibly.
Grace Church does with their frames, they last and they hold up really well. And if they don't put up
Sorry, but
their
we need the
frames.
microphone, they can't. hear.
Yeah,
We
sorry.
can't use the mics because we have mics at the table, so she can't run the in-house system when we get feedback.
Cut the mics off.
Oh, okay.
Yell really loud.
So she's, okay, I'm sorry.
We're talking then.
She told me so.
Standby frames.
You're close enough.
No, just.
It's,
Plus, I've got my.
Okay, we're,
it's really one way or the other. It's not that different if as long as it's in good condition, and that's the thing. If it's in a frame like Grace churches are, they hold up really well, and it's not any different. They actually hold up better than the feather flag, because the feather flag, like your experience with the American flags, they move, they wear, and they would have to come down and be replaced sooner. With a banner attached to a fence permanently, you know, with all the grommets, it's going to actually last longer and look better, in my opinion. But you know, opinions are never mind.
Only if you agree with Lon.
Lonnie?
okay, go ahead.
I would say, just like Clayton Homes, you know, they put those banners on the end of their houses, and I don't think they look bad at all.
Okay, no,
You know, in that exact
I'm
example.
backing off, it was just my first impression of what I'm picturing, but I'm good.
You're, that's why you got.
No, that was self-inflicted.
I have one provision, 24 months from now, we wanna sunshine this. It comes back for review to see if our business owners are doing what they say they're gonna do. And then if it's working for us as a town.
You mean 24 months after
24 months after it's
the
passed
language
by-
is adopted?
Right,
adopted
in
by the
effect.
council. In effect, yeah.
The only question I have is, when are they coming in for permits then? If the two feathered flags are allowed by right now, after they get their permanent flag or their permanent sign, then they no longer need a permit. Is that right?
Let's say that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Josh, but I
It doesn't
missed
matter
what
to
you
me. I
asked.
just want
No, they no longer need a permanent for those once they get their
their permanent
permanent sign. But, going back to Tom again real quick, so that means that we will change it from what it has been, in that if somebody truly comes in, starts their business, and needs a temporary sign, it is good for 6 months. After 6 months, they need to get their permanent sign.
Or 3 months, or 2 months, or whatever you
But up
see
to.
fit. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
In
why-
order, yeah. And
That's
then
why I
when we-
asked the dollar amount
Tom?
to see what was feasible.
How long does it take to get a permanent sign? If I open a business, come in, Tom, make me a sign, how long is that?
It depends on the sign.
Not very long. And it depends on how.
Not very long, it's got a grand spectrum.
Yes, I know. And so I can make you a hard metal sign in a couple days. It's not a big deal. If you have a backlit, larger monument sign that is complicated with electrical and wiring and all kinds of things like that, it could take 30 days, 45 days, something like that.
Mayor, before we close though, can we have a summary from either Josh or Andrew so that we feel like we
Sure.
all
Mike is
understand?
still waiting.
Let's start with Josh.
I'm
Josh,
sorry.
give
Hold-
us a summary,
Mike's
and
still
then
waiting.
Andrew can.
I guess Mike's waiting, sorry.
He's
Yeah.
been very patient.
I just have one question, where our strip malls are, you know, and I'll pick on Lanton, where they've got small frontage, and they've got all those businesses down, plus all the barns behind them where they have auto shops and stuff. They don't have enough room to put 2 feather flags per business, I do not think. So we're gonna have to, some way, clarify what they can do, cause they'll fall under a strip mall or whatever you wanna call it. The same way with where Coffee Flow is, you've got overflow, excuse me. It's gonna go ahead and you don't have enough frontage to put everybody's 2 signs up.
I would like to do this and in 24 months, come back and take a look at it and see if it's working or not.
Test it for 24 months.
Test it for 24 months.
That's not addressing Mike's concern though. He's right in the
One
sense.
of them on the building?
No,
and one of them out front,
There's no-
that would eliminate
It's
the
cement.
clutter.
Like on the roof?
Yeah.
No, put it on the fascia, right on the front of the building, right in front of the.
Be a banner instead of a
business,
flag.
Oh.
Like on a flagpole, kind of.
Okay.
This went right back to what I asked earlier on the same deal.
Josh, can you,
Did
do
you
you have
want me
enough information to draft an ordinance? What else do you need?
I think we're still in discussion.
What else do you
He just
need,
wants
Josh?
A recap of where
We're
we're at.
recapping.
Not everything, right? You don't want me to recap everything.
No, just what's being proposed right now, and what most of the, I think everybody in the business
Okay.
community has shook their head that they're fine with what we've just,
Okay, I'll
Gotten
recap
to.
it and then, Andrew
We'll see
can
if it's legal.
correct me if I'm wrong or whatever. So what I've heard is, one, they're allowed 2 feathered flags, by right, once they have their permanent sign installed. Permanent signage isn't gonna change. They don't need a permit for that. They're allowed to swap out based on 48 total square feet of auxiliary signage, which could be a banner for a special event. Again, no permit required. That's what I have. Actual temporary signage is in the code currently 6 months. We can change that if you want, or leave that the same.
I think 6 months.
I
But that is only in reference to the temporary sign that's put up prior to the permanent sign. With that, any draft that we provide will also include definitions for everything. Permanent sign, temporary sign, auxiliary signage.
If you're
Special
talking
event
6
sign.
months, what happens after the 6 months?
That's
That temporary
They
sign
have to
goes
have a
away.
permanent sign. They have to
No.
have permanent.
Well,
That
if
really
they exceed
defeats
the
what we're trying to
if
do
they
here.
exceed the 6 months, then the temporary signage comes down, whether they have their permanent sign up or not.
Yeah, there's no renewal.
There's no renewal on that.
No renewal.
And, I mean, that's.
So everybody's got 6 months and all of a sudden we're back here where we are right
No,
now.
no,
No.
They're misunderstanding temporary. Temporary is just if you're a new
True
business,
temporary.
you can put up your piece of
We're saying,
plywood,
we're saying.
and you have 6
We're
months to
saying
get.
that feather flags are no longer temporary signs, they're permanent signs.
Yes.
Auxiliary.
They're auxiliary.
Temporary
Permanent.
sign, which is a permanent sign.
Yes.
Okay,
but they're only allowed once you've got your permanent sign.
yeah, I understand.
Okay. Is that right?
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Wait, hold on, with the cynicism on that one, could you clarify?
It's a lot easier to talk about than it is to draft. So
Okay.
getting it to say it this clearly and everybody in this room agree that the words all mean what they mean is going to be a challenge that I think is underappreciated at the moment.
If I
We
may
appreciate
add, we've got public notifications ready to go out so that it can go on the November Planning Commission meeting, so we could have this back to you by the first council meeting in December. It's pretty soon.
I think that's
but-
really tight in terms of,
Yeah.
what I think makes a lot more sense for us not having to do this ever again is to get language together, work through it, bring it back to you in a work session, make sure it says what everybody
Absolutely.
thinks it says,
Absolutely.
then send it through P and Z and get it done.
So-
Because I don't wanna initiate the planning and zoning process
Well,
until
we don't
everybody's
wanna
comfortable.
start this thing all over again, we wanna get it done once and for all.
Okay, then with that being said, do we go back in this time period right now? Do we go back to the original interpretation of what we've been operating on, what this council voted on, until we get that?
Absolutely, we have to.
But what is what the council
know.
voted on? That's what we'd really
That's
like
the
to know.
whole argument to start
Good
with.
question.
Yes.
That's
Corey
a-
just had to bring it up.
If rather than framing it that way, how about, we just get direction on one very simple thing. If someone comes in for what we're currently calling a temporary sign permit, is it a per business per month fee, or is it a per sign per month fee? If you can give us direction on that, that solves one whole argument,
Business or sign,
and we're done.
or month.
It's written as business.
Business or month.
My understanding.
Well, but it's not written that way, that's why I
Business.
wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Corey, business or month?
Per business right now.
Means
Andy?
sign.
I mean, yeah, business or sign.
Business or sign. Because there will be
Okay,
times
let's
when we
go
have
on.
multiple permits.
Mike?
Okay, stop, please stop.
Okay.
Okay, when it's my turn to speak, I'm allotted that time to speak. The attorney was still talking. I was waiting for him to finish. Please
If-
continue.
If we have multiple permits, is it each permit, that permit gets you per month that cost? So it's, if you have a permit for a single sign, it's $5 for that sign every month. If you have a permit that has 3 signs in it, it's $5 for those 3 signs every month. Is that what we're saying?
It's aggregate.
He's asking the council.
Yeah.
I'm gonna deflect back to you on that. What are you doing?
And we're talking about a temporary sign. We're no longer talking about flags.
Yeah, what we currently call a temporary sign.
The
Okay.
existing
So
one.
a temporary sign, so if a person comes in after a temporary sign, they're living under the same square footage rules as if it were a permanent one, correct?
No.
No, the temporary signage, they're allowed 48 square feet.
Okay, so 48 square
aggregate.
feet. So,
But that's not what the fee schedule says.
okay, so,
That's the question. Is it based on the business or is it based on the
Okay.
sign?
okay. And I guess where I'm going with this, so if somebody wanted to come in and get 3 temporary signs, they all have to they all have to come up with 48 square feet.
They can't exceed that.
Okay,
They
so.
could come in with 6 that are 2 square feet each. if they
Okay,
wanted.
so my opinion is, I don't know why you would do that, but if someone wanted to come in and they wanted to get 3 16 square foot signs instead of 1 48 square foot sign to advertise their new business, I would say the fee should be the same per business.
Okay, Lon, can I follow up with that question?
Yes.
So it's per business per month,
Per business per month.
because then that answers the secondary question. If they came in once and got 1 permit for 3 of them, or once, then 1, then 1, you're saying per business per month regardless is the number we're using, because that's a
Yeah.
much simpler calculation.
Yes.
I would like to suggest that we do a one sign of 48 square feet per business for $30. It's good for 6 months. Done. Per business.
That won't work with certain businesses that have to put their signage on the corner. Take, for example, like the Hazelnook and the Jewelers. Those are set back off the highway. They advertise on the corner, so
They could put 24 feet on each side.
I thought you said one sign of 40.
Well, it's one sign. To me, it's one sign. It's not like 3 signs, like one on the corner, one on the front, one on the other end. It's just temporary. It's just
Josh, you understand the intent of what we're saying?
I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys
Yeah.
kinda lost me on this one.
I'm
Everybody's
gonna
different.
let the attorney tell
Changing
me.
the subject every third
Yeah.
person speaking.
So
I
Wait
like
a minute.
Jackson, if we can have this wrapped up in 6 months, let's just do a one-time permit for 6 months.
What are you asking us to tell you?
for those permits that are already out there and issued,
Okay, that's what we're doing.
there's a charge per month per sign at the moment. If you're saying all permits that are currently issued, it's going to be per business per month, then that's simple. We can do that all day long. If a new business comes in and gets one in that time period, if they already have a temporary sign, then I assume it just means it doesn't add any additional charge to that one. It's still just per business per month. As long as everybody's nodding along with that, that's easy.
This is until we adopt the new one.
Until we adopt the new one, that's.
Yes,
Okay.
per
Thank you.
business.
So they gotta come in every month.
No.
No.
Every 6 months.
But it's charged per business per month.
Okay.
Not per sign.
$30.
It's just until the new code's adopted.
Until we get the.
We're gonna get that back.
Do I have a nod from anybody?
For what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Annie's still thinking about it?
We lost
Yeah.
half the crowd.
Yeah,
Big
yeah.
time, girl.
I'm gonna take a walk. I'm taking a walk.
Let Annie take a walk.
Question from the crowd, so does that mean they can put their flags back out now?
If they have their permit.
Yes, which we already have a permanent sign permit, so we're good to go.
Is that,
You have a permanent sign.
We have a permanent.
They're maintained.
Brand new sign.
Yeah, and they're maintaining it.
You gotta have the tip back up, and we had to take.
Wait a minute, we're
you
still
gonna
in
have what?
Under the existing code, you have to have a temporary sign permit that now will cost you $5 a month
Per business.
for 6, with a minimum of 6 months. So basically,
Per business.
for 6 months. So $30 for up to 48 square feet of temporary sign.
Yeah, until we change the code, we can't change the, what's permitted.
For the five.
I mean, that's,
That's right.
$5 per business.
Which will become the auxiliary site.
auxiliary.
48 square feet.
But you are,
48 square feet, period. Whether it's
do
a
we
flag
wanna
or a
allow
sign, or
business
it's
people to
48
come in and put up their flag signs again?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we allow it, starting now?
Yes.
Under the current code until we get, no, I'm, wait,
No, it's,
let me go. Under the current code until we get the new code written.
Thought that's what you just said.
If that's what you want us to allow, then they can come in and apply for another permit, which we will charge $5 per business per month for a 6-month permit. And I hope we have it rewritten by then.
Ron, I'm glad you stay awake, Ron, for the entire thing.
well, and,
You guys are doing great.
and two, remember, right now you don't have in your code a requirement that they have a permanent sign before they get them. So we're not gonna be able to enforce
Can't-
that
we can't
provision
enforce
until
that.
you have that provision.
Until we have, everybody understand that. We can't enforce that until we have.
I
the new-
understand.
He understands it'll be one. It's
Yeah.
gonna be busy in the
Nobody,
morning.
I understand.
So everybody, are we happy, happy, happy? Okay, Annie, come on in and tell us what you need.
Oh, I was listening, I'm happy.
Okay. You sure?
And we're looking at about how long you think before we could get this set up to make it, we're gonna be a month, and then we come in for another study session, and then we do it, so is it realistic, 2 months? Or is that too short?
We can provide the notification prior to us bringing it to this next study session to make sure it can be on the next month if we need to. We can
Yeah.
request a continuance
I,
or.
I wanna make sure that the council's comfortable with the language before we move it forward.
We wanna do it right.
Right, and because it's,
Correct.
because we don't wanna do an end around the P and Z public hearing process. We wanna make sure it's right in your minds before it goes into the public
P&Z.
hearing packet.
Yes.
So, we can double advertise those so that P and Z and council
Yeah.
meetings crown up against each other and do our best to get it done before the end of the calendar here. It's just, I don't wanna be doing it 3 or 4
It'd be a good
times.
Christmas gift.
Yes.
Get it done.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So the only other question I have
Or
is
Hanukkah.
there was some discussion of off-site signage.
Yes.
Hold a
Did you-
minute.
Did you want us to address off-site signage as well?
Well, that is an issue. I know we have some businesses here that have off-site signage.
It's a
so
problem.
It's a problem. It is an issue. El Charo.
Chino glass.
I think,
There's a handful.
I think that one will take some time as well.
Yeah.
We can put something together,
Question is who built the building perpendicular
whatever
to
you
the
want.
road?
Well,
I don't, myself personally, I don't wanna slow this down
Right.
by going to that, so.
They're separate issues, but yeah.
well, so that will be taken up at a later meeting,
Okay,
and we probably need to look at the fee schedule again if we can't agree to that.
it needs to be modified.
Needs to be
to say
modified. So
exactly
let's
what-
look at those two issues at some,
Okay.
in a future date.
Oh, wait, wait,
So,
wait, wait.
I know we're probably not gonna
Oh.
address signs against this month, but we do have an extra Tuesday. I know everybody's excited about that in this month. And we're kicking a bunch of study session items that we're not completing, and we still have a full November study session, so we probably will use that last Tuesday to accomplish some of the things that we've had on. Maggie's got a few items, Frank does. So, sorry.
Still got an hour and 20 minutes.
I'm busy that night.
We can go over one thing tonight, but we still haven't.
We're gonna do one thing, and then we're gonna have to come back for another study session.
I think we'd like to do the bathroom.
Can we take a recess?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's take a recess, we'll come back and do the bathroom.
People can
We need to get those things going.
They don't wanna.
Bathroom and then do the bathroom.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Greg. Thanks for your input.
Big five.
And I told Sergio not to.
It does sound terrible, yeah.
Because I didn't think we'd get through.
walk next door for that.
Yeah, but they gotta get it ready.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's on the web and everything. You guys are great.
Those are expensive words right there. Well, we got that right.
Fruity.
I got a question eventually we're gonna ask about signs. Model aviator. Shot fence every time they have a test.
Good, good. My little guy at the doctor for way longer. Then I thought, well, the line was there, so he gave my alibi.
What item number is yours? Let's see. We're talking about the, bathrooms, okay, that's page 39. Yes. Yeah, it's there. Let's see, we've got your stuff there. There's that. There's numbers. 187, 888, 888, 888. Yeah. Yep, 536. He doesn't have one. You don't? Okay, good. Yeah, everything else in there was Maggie's.
I'm just gonna keep my seat and not, we're not using this microphone.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is this microphone?
Sorry, I got confused. The only thing we got left, I don't know.
Nice to see you, Gary. Nice to see you. I've seen you forever. Yeah.
Anytime tomorrow within.
No, I think now we can walk
I
away.
usually have mine too. I just got
Where we weren't quite there.
Tom was saying that, as a sign company, he says maybe we should just start watching all this kind of stuff, and if somebody's looking pretty ragged or something like that, we'll let them know, hey, I gotta fix that. Something's gonna happen.
We don't want to end up having this all back in front of the council again.
Let's see how long it takes with the bathroom.
Thank you, guys.
Ask the mayor. Yeah, go ahead. It's okay. Yeah, let's. We got Frank's going first. Is your guy still here?
No, this is the Grand Canyon logo on it. But maybe, you know what, because
ready?
Yeah.
You ready, Mayor?
I'm ready. Are we ready? Let's
I
go
think
on.
so.
Let's go on to item 4. Consideration discussion regarding memory park bathrooms and utility shop projects. Mr. Marbury.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got about 60% design done on these, and wanted to bring the cost back to you. In your packets, you'll see the layout and the numbers. The memory park restrooms are a little above our preliminary estimates, mainly because we felt the need to include a family restroom, which is also the accessible restroom, which is also accommodates the new rules for the changing stations that are needed. So we kind of think it's worth the money. And Joe, you got the breakdown of that, or?
It's on page.
We'd originally budgeted 150 for it. The estimate's 187. Tax is gonna be.
880.
It's gonna come from where?
We can do 40,000 out of contingency.
Okay.
Do it.
Do it? Yep. That's
Do it.
enough.
Okay, and then the utility shop building.
Sorry.
I know, that's just like, wait, did everybody hear that though? I just
Well,
wanna make
Well,
sure.
yeah, I heard Jack, but I usually don't pay any attention to it. So,
It's like,
I'm sorry, I'm just saying, do it.
Hey, I
We
sit
need it.
next to him. I have to.
I'm sorry, Lonnie. What do you think, Lonnie?
do it.
Okay, good. Mike, what do you think?
Mike, what do you
Hey,
say?
I'm all for it.
Okay.
The only question he didn't say is, do I get my increase in electricity?
No. Annie, what do you think, girl?
I'm gonna think about it for a
400
while.
amps.
Okay.
Okay,
Corey,
I can live with that.
It's gotta get done.
gotta get done.
Yes, of course.
What'd you say, Annie?
I said yes, of course.
Okay, moving right along. Any other thing that we
Oh,
need
wait a
to
minute,
do
we
tonight?
didn't talk about
Yes.
that near long enough.
utility shop building, is
Do I?
It's just us, nobody else, they all
I'm-
left.
I'm not done, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
Utility shop building also came in a good bit over estimates. We have a couple options here, but we'd like to go ahead and finish the building. There's
Can I call you back?
some extra office space that wasn't included there. The labs and the work through the public procurement process is somewhat expensive on this. We cut costs as much as we could, about $100,000 off of the 30% estimate. But we still need some money there, and I'm gonna ask Joe again to maybe summarize the extra money on this one.
Okay, so we budgeted 320,000 originally. We do have we also budgeted 120,000 for the drying beds, which realistically, we're not gonna construct this fiscal year. So that leaves us about 126,000 short. However, these are the enterprise funds and not the governmental funds, and so we can actually go over budget with them, and we budget for that extra amount next year. So they will have sufficient reserves to actually cover that 126,000. So we can afford to do it. And my recommendation is that we've been talking about this building for almost 3 years now, and we went through the procurement process as required. My recommendation is go ahead and just get it done.
We have to do it because we promised to move those folks out. So we gotta have some place to put them.
Okay, I got one question, Frank. When you say the lab is one of the things that really pushed it out there, so what are we using for a lab now?
It's in the mobile,
So,
it's in the bathroom,
okay, so does
or
that,
in the kitchen.
why can't we move it to the new building? I mean, do we have to start over?
Well, we're using the kitchen as the lab.
It's part of mobile.
Yeah, it's the kitchen area.
It's a kitchen sink.
Okay, so we need to put we need to put a sink and a countertop, and that's not $100 and some odd thousand. I guess I'm just asking, what are we, with this overage that you're talking about, what are we doing with it? What are we getting for it?
Well, it's not so much as an overage as it's more expensive than anticipated.
That's where it is. We just threw wild guesses. So the cost came in a lot higher than anticipated.
Okay, Jack, just one more before you start.
No problem, I'm
Is-
waiting.
Is That's what I'm wanting to know is that we have a lab in the kitchen of the mobile. Why can't we take that lab and move it to a sink and a counter in the new building? Why is it way expensive? Or are we starting from scratch with a whole new state-of-the-art lab?
No, it's not lab equipment, it's the plumbing, the rough-in plumbing for the sink and the fixtures in there.
Okay.
And the vent, the stove vent, like you would have in a house, and that sort of, the TI, the tenant improvement.
Okay.
For that.
And it's bringing it up to what the standard should be for a lab. You really shouldn't have a lab in manufactured homes. It
In a
should-
kitchen.
We do a lot of things in Chino that you
Well, I
shouldn't
know,
do.
and we made
Okay,
it-
but-
and we made it this far. But this is for the future, this is for the next.
Right, and we're trying cost-saving measures, like we took, in the bay shop areas, we took all of the, evaporative coolers out, and we're gonna put those in as budget allows after the fact with our own personnel, because we thought to pay the contractor to install those when we had staff with that expertise, that ability, would save us money. They were asking about $10,000 each for swamp coolers, so we tried to cut as much of those costs. The exterior slab around the building, we're gonna do that in-house or with other contractors, separate. We're tried to trim these costs as much as we could.
Question, is this just a big metal building with the finish inside of the rooms?
Yes, sir.
That's what we're looking at. And that $170,000 is gonna get us roughed out plumbing in the walls and the kitchen cabinets and, or the cabinetry and the countertop and all that?
The 566, 536 is a complete finish.
Right. What are we paying a square foot for the metal building? Do you know?
I would have to calculate it out.
Cause they run about $40 roughly a square foot usually.
For the
For the
steel?
shell.
For just the steel?
40, $50
Estimates on the steel alone is about 75,000, I think.
for the square footage we're using?
Right.
So how big is this many square feet are we?
About 4,000.
And you said it's how much for the 75,000? Is what they want for it? Is that correct? Is that erected or is that just the building cost?
I think that's delivered cost. I don't have the estimate in front of me. If I could borrow somewhere.
He has the metals at 132.
That,
That installed is 132,800 for the metals.
That's $18.
that should be erected at that.
That's $18.75 a square foot for your building, which is,
That's for the steel erection.
yeah.
Doesn't
No, that's
include the
just for the
foundation or
materials.
anything.
Correct. Well, that's a good price. I was thinking it was, I heard it was gonna be in the $150, $200 range for the, what do you got, 32, what is that?
3320.
Is that erected?
That's metals divided by 4,000.
That's materials.
But the metals cost is erected,
Yeah, okay.
but it's not the concrete foundation or anything like
Correct,
that.
I understand that. So you're getting it put up in place for $33 a square foot?
Yes.
The steel.
Yeah,
I think.
good job. I just wanted to, no,
Okay.
thank you.
Steel ones.
Okay.
That's $7 cheaper than what he said.
And these prices, they still need to go through the final process of the procurement process to
I
finalize
understand.
these. These are an estimate, so.
So we want it all 10% less.
Okay,
How
what do you
tall-
think, folks?
How tall is this?
Corey, you got something?
20-foot eve height, I think.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
20-foot eve height is what he said. That's pretty big.
It's 16-foot
Doors?
or 14-foot tall standard doors. They're not roll-ups.
Okay.
We tried to save money by having the doors follow the roof line up, or however
But
they
you-
do it.
They're on tracks, yes.
Yeah.
You only need 12 inches for that. So
Yeah, so it's probably 18-foot walls then.
But it'll
for a 14
fit
by
a
14 wall.
full-size truck.
Which you need that for your vacuum truck. Right.
And you did,
Right.
and you did go with the wider doors that Corey mentioned before, right?
That's
Don't
what he just,
quote me,
he
but
said
I'm
14
thinking
by
16
14.
foot.
Huh?
Why?
It might be 16 foot wide.
And that's even bigger.
I give them a bigger run at it.
They're 25-foot bays.
We are gonna quote you though, just.
Do you have licensed electricians at the town?
No, sir.
Then,
Other than,
as far as just because they can put swamp coolers in, what's going around this building? Where's your parking? Do you have handicap? Do you have any of
as
that?
far as the site work, we'll have to do that separately, cause the 25-foot apron around it was breaking the bank at the time.
Okay.
So we need to maybe budget that.
Well, you know, I've been breaking my bank quite a bit as well.
So we were
And-
looking
and I gotta
to
tell you,
budget that next year.
It's pretty frustrating when you require the public to do something and the town doesn't. So,
So, because this is a town shop, it's not a place that customers frequent. Do we still have to deal with the handicap parking
Yes.
spots?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I think we're following all the codes, Corey.
Yeah, you gotta follow codes.
don't think that's a correct.
Just not in this bid.
Right.
Not in this bid, but you
But
have
we
to
won't
follow.
do things that are different than what we have.
so, which means you will not occupy this until that's done.
We
Certificate
have
of
to apply
occupancy.
for a building permit, so that's not my call, that's the building department's call on that.
Come on, let's don't shove
Okay.
stuff on other people.
Next budget year, we'll come back.
We'll back them up.
So we're bound by the same permits as any private business, is the easy answer to that.
Okay.
I think what Corey's saying is per ADA, you have to have improved parking
Yes, you
regs and all that stuff. So being it's a public building, you can't occupy it until, and I know you know that, right? I hope you know that.
And Josh, we need some landscaping.
That's debatable.
Okay,
I'd like to, I would like to use the same landscape plan that you guys use. Anyway.
For the zoning.
Go there
if you want.
Corey, would you like to use the same order plan?
No.
For the same quantities?
Okay, next.
So there are other items. If Maggie, do you want to do your item? At least
wait, we haven't resolved this item yet.
Do we wanna move forward
Do
at
we
this?
wanna move forward with this?
Bring it to council. It'll be on your next agenda.
Do we wanna move forward with
Yes.
it? Annie?
I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. I think she's smart, and the rest of them. Jack?
Yes.
Corey?
I don't think we have any choice.
Okay.
Yeah. all right, we're just-
Everybody agree?
I want the park to go forward, whether the building goes forward or not.
Okay.
I
Next.
think we have like 2 years till we have to be out of that building. Is it, did we determine?
No,
it's
that's
2
the
years?
road,
We've
that's the
got-
Quonset hut. We own, well, half of the Quonset hut is utilities and half is the road department. So the Vector truck needs to get out of there, but also the road department's gonna have to move.
It can't be 2, it has to be more, less than 2.
2021, September 30th, 2021, I think, don't quote me, but, and
But
that's,
but regardless.
unless the lease is negotiated.
We have 25 minutes. At 8 o'clock, we're going to go home. We'll stop. So what can we deal with?
Road to North?
Road to north or else,
Let's give Maggie a chance.
3C.
This is free.
Okay,
What's free?
3C.
What she's going,
3C, page 39.
If it's free, yes.
5 is not free.
I'm sorry, I can't accept that paper until
Got a
Andrew
paper
looked at it and
somewhere.
signed off on it.
I did that earlier.
Oh, you favor?
37.
His dog's out in the car too.
Here comes the course.
Maggie, do you want us to bring up one of your PowerPoints?
Thanks.
So this is the Grand Canyon State logo signs project, we'll call it. It's pretty clear what it is on the front. So ADOT program is done through this company, and it's for, if you look through the pages, it's for $500 one-time fee for them to buy their logo sign, and then $46 a month. $46 a month goes back into the roads. Not sure if it's state or local, but I'm pretty sure it's state.
It's state.
So, and then they already have predetermined locations for them on the back page. Where they go. I've already talked to both different business owners who love it. Gary, Denny, and Surgeon I talked to tonight. So the only thing the town only has is my time that it's costing, because I have to put together a spreadsheet for her, the sales gal over here, with the businesses that are interested, all their contact information, level of interest, and all of that, and send it to her, and then that's when she calls them to sell them. Sign.
One quick question on locations here, you're showing the intersection. Does that denote one sign on each coming from the south and one sign from the north, going north?
I believe it would have to be.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and I'll clarify that, but I'm pretty sure it would have to be. I don't think you could put it on just one sign, unless it's on this highway that is.
So every mile, we will have these going through town.
Is that what it looks like? I don't
Yeah,
know.
so
Well,
half mile.
It looks like a half
well, yeah,
mile.
some of them are even closer
Yeah.
than that.
The Perkinsville one.
Every major crossroad.
Does it show 4 north?
No.
Nope.
Stop at 3. The map stopped at 3.
This may be subject to change based on, like, if we're telling, you know, as long as it's not right out right away. I would imagine. It's just that this is already on the website, which is convenient.
My reason to bring up 4 north is that's El Charro Norte.
And Windmill Farms.
And Windmill Farms, that would be nice to have.
And
one
it will
there.
also be the entrance to our business park.
Yes,
Yeah.
Correct.
yes.
So,
And take out 2 north.
what's that?
They said and take out 2 north. Where, I'm just wondering where on the 2 north intersection that would go.
Who knows?
I mean, that's,
It should go before the intersection, that's why it
Yeah.
does.
yeah,
So you got
but-
time to get over to whatever.
They go in the ADOT right of
But
way.
I think her point is ADOT
But-
determines those locations.
I think this is fantastic.
The other thing about it is that you have to, so El Charro would have to have what's called a trailblazer sign, because the whole point of this is get the customer to the business, right? So trailblazer sign, you guys have seen them throughout town. A Peavine Trail would be an example of that. So you'd have to get probably 2 trailblazer signs, which are cheap, they're like $15 a month, to get to this business.
19 months, yeah.
Or 19, is that on there? Oh.
So, yeah, it is
And
on
who
the
provides
website.
those?
This program does.
Same.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have to buy the initial fee of it. So I can't, sorry. I
Pay the
don't
initial
remember
fee
that.
and then a monthly.
And then a monthly fee, but it's pretty insignificant.
So almost like $100 a month, Gary Denning could have advertising from
That he
highway
needs.
back to
And
his
he's
business.
excited. I'm
Or
pretty
Chino
confident.
Glass, or,
Yeah.
So they're gonna put signs on the town right away?
ADOT's right away.
You said the Trailblazers,
That was my question
Yeah.
too.
And Josh had already said that he believes that's okay, right? Cause it's not,
Josh doesn't control the town right away.
Yeah.
we would briefly talked about it, but it's,
do you control the town right away?
No, the council controls the town right away.
Then I think we know the answer.
So ADOT provides it as part of their sign and so on, but
it's their initial investment to get.
where those are placed, and that then would come back to the town.
I
On the
mean,
Trailblazer,
the trailblazers,
I mean, would it be,
that would be the town, yeah.
Okay.
It just has to get them to the business.
Okay.
Okay, they can get a permit, and once they get the permit signed, they're allowed 2 48
Two 44-foot flags
flags.
on the sign.
48 foot total.
I think we're getting a little punchy now.
My, sorry, my only concern was if they were making a monthly fee off of signs installed on the town right away. I didn't know how council would feel about that. But
so include churches too, cause there's churches that
ADOT
have
right
asked
away, I
us
don't
tonight, they wanted
Any
all
other-
signage.
She said that the monthly fee
Yeah, he said
goes
do that.
back to the business that it's talking about. That's how they're gonna make their money. Like that Trailblazer sign is $19 a month, reference El Charro.
Oh, you're right, lodging, camping, and attraction.
Or our old home manor, we could get involved in.
Andrew, do you have anything else to tell us tonight?
If it means that we would stay here longer for you to listen to me, then no. Definitely not.
You're
I'm
hired.
starting to like you.
I like your dog too.
What about, we gonna do Maggie's other thing?
No,
No.
we're done. Let's go home.
Good night.
Did,
even got
did,
done
it-
early.
did she get an answer?